Mike McCool here. I'm in the Royal Examiner studio, and with me today is Mayor Eugene Tewalt. Mayor, it's good to see you again. You were here last month, kind of bringing us up to date on what's happening in the town, and we've had some strange meetings.
Yes, we have.
It's hard to watch your meeting just listening to it, it's a little different than when you're right there at the meeting.
It really is different. Here I'm sitting in my little office and trying to talk to everybody on the camera, which we can't see each other.
I know, you're trying to visualize what's happening. I know.
But it seems like it's worked out real well so far, at least it has as far as I'm concerned. We've had two good meetings, and we got another one Thursday night, which is tomorrow evening.
Right.
And hopefully another one next Monday night. So everything seems to be going pretty well.
I looked at the agenda for tomorrow's meeting. It's pretty short. There's only 2 items on it.
Yeah, there's only 2 items.
2 major items, but...
Right. The one item is the giving a 30-day extension on our taxes and personal property until I believe it's July the 5th, where there will be no penalties charged to people that are running late on their taxes.
I'm sure that'll pass.
Oh yeah, well, taxes are still due by the date, but we're giving them a 30-day grace period.
And no penalties until after that. I'm sure that will pass the council. I don't think there'll be any objections to that.
No, I don't think there'll be any objections.
We'll be safe to say that'll probably happen.
I'm sure.
How about the second item?
Well, the second item, we're going to look at the 2019-20 budget, and we have got 3 scenarios that we have got proposed to bring before the council tomorrow night. When we look at the 3 scenarios, the third scenario which would have about a 30% shortfall in mills tax and lodging and other taxes, and then an actual utility-based things, another 6%. So if that scenario comes out as we look at it now, it's going to run us about a little over $2 million in the red between now and the 1st of July, when the new budget would take over.
Oh, you're talking about from April to July we're going to be in the hole that much?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then going forward we'll be in the hole as well.
Well, yeah, that'll be our next big hurdle, is to take our new budget for 21 and 22. Then we're going to have to start looking at that and cutting some of the capital projects and things of that nature. But the next 3 months will tell us pretty much how we're moving in this budget item.
Right.
Because we'll see the trends that will go through the 3 months now,
right.
And then we'll see how this rest, what's going on after July, and then we'll have to see how that'll pan out in cutting major things out of the next year's budget.
There'll be some major cuts.
There's got to be some major cuts, yes, because we don't know. Again, we're in limbo at this point. We don't know what the state's going to do. We don't know how much money we'll get back from the shortfalls now, with the pandemic going on at this time, and then later, when we get our money from the state, we don't know if it's going to be the same amount before or less.
Right.
And so that affects our $2 million we get for street maintenance, and then the $599, which is the police department, we get quite a big chunk of money from the state on that to help support our police department. So, by just those 2 cuts alone, if it cuts down 50%, that means we're going to be running $1.5 million short, even just on those 2 items.
Well, I heard the governor today at his briefing, which we'll have posted as well on the Royal Examiner here in a few minutes. They're saying the same thing you are. There's going to be budget cuts, and there's going to be some shortfalls of income.
Well, I think that's going to be statewide, or nationwide, really, because we're all in the same boat. We're all looking at shortfalls, because when you don't have your business operating, that's where the money comes from, through your tax base.
Well, we get a lot of money just from our meals and lodging. About how much do we get a year from meals and lodging? Do you recall?
Without going back and looking, it's over $1 million we get in meals tax. But
it's amazing.
If this thing comes in as we're looking at it, with at least a 30% drop in the meals tax, you're looking at $400,000 there, and then what we get out on the corridor in the meals and lodging, we get around $400,000+ there, and that's going to be cut drastically as well. So we could be losing somewhere around $800,000-900,000 just in the meals and the lodging tax alone.
And we know people are going to be, even if they pay their real estate taxes, it's going to be late but people are just going to push those things back as far as they can, I'm sure. Priorities, that people put priorities, and I'm sure there'll be some adjustments in it, but that means your cash flow will be crunched.
Our cash flow is going to be very short here for the next 3 months, especially, like you said, with the real estate, personal property tax coming in,
Sure.
which is, it's somewhere around 600,000 or 700,000. We get around $1 million in, well, a little over $1 million in revenue from the real estate and personal property. But, if it comes in 3 months short, that means those 3 months has got to be made up somewhere else.
This is a reason why we have reserve funds in our enterprise funds. Is that right? I mean,
we do have reserves in all of our funds, general fund as well, but our general fund is pretty much been eaten up to tune where if this comes out the way we're looking at it tomorrow night on the third scenario, we're going to be somewhere in the red. And here, let me look here on this paper. Well, in this case, we'll be around $24,000 if we make all the cuts that we are anticipating. The big one we have as far as the loss of money would be in our actual sewer fund, which would be around $600,000. That would be coming up short in that if we use the scenario 3, which would be the least amount of money that we can cut.
we have to plan for the worst and hope for the best.
That's correct, yes.
I noticed that in the cuts here, and what the governor says and the president has said, we have this essential and non-essential. And I'm sure, I always said, well, if things are non-essential, why are we doing them?
Well, being public works director for years, you always put a lot of things in your budget that you're not going to get. But there are a lot of things in there that you're thinking that, well, if we get it, we can do a whole lot more things during that particular year.
Sure.
So when BJ and our town manager went through the actual budget, there are things that we can get by without buying this year.
Right.
And so we have cut those things to the bare bone, and the only things we're leaving in there is the actual necessities that we have to have in order to continue the operation of the town.
Keep the lights on and keep the water flowing.
Well, maybe a little better than that, but there are a lot of things.
Well, some of these things we're just kicking the can down the road because even when we reuse our reserves, we got to make those reserves back up in the future years.
That's true. Sure. One thing for sure, in our shortfall this year, we're definitely going to spend money for an I&I program. That is something that we can't get out of that because we have a letter that we're going to approve Monday night in regards to the DEQ that forcing us to continue our repairs of the sewer line to cut out our I&I program.
And they're serious about it. They fined us.
They are very serious. We were fined roughly $39,000, but they allowed us to spend around $34,500 to put some riprap along Happy Creek from Prospect Street going south to the South Street Bridge. So our only fine that we'll have to write them a check for will be around $3,900 and a few dollars.
Maybe we'll just plead ignorant, and maybe we.
You can't plead ignorance.
The DEQ they are a pretty tough bunch.
They are very tough.
They're very tough, and that's something that people don't realize that the DEQ and the influence it has on the town. It's just amazing. It's just like the creek here behind our studio. Happy Creek and the flooding and the different things. I can remember years ago we could just seem like go clean it out. Now it's like an act of Congress to be able to take a twig out of the creek.
That's correct. We have to get all the permitting from the marine biologist people, which they were the only ones I had to deal with when I was director. But now we got to deal with them and the DEQ and a lot of other organizations that weren't there at the time, but it's really created a problem. But, the DEQ is the reason we had to upgrade our secondary treatment plant. They told us we had to get the phosphorus and nitrogen out of our water that goes back into the river, and so it wound up spending about $40 million plus.
Yeah. And we know another one's coming soon. Now they'll want to get the estrogen out of the water.
We'll have to take the pharmaceutical products out of the water.
And so don't dump your pills into the toilet to get rid of them.
Don't do that.
And that was the old thing. Just flush them down. And we definitely don't want to do that.
Definitely don't flush any pills down the sewer line, into the sewer line.
Yeah. you don't want to. It's bad enough when you take the pills and it comes out, and that's amazing how things. We just don't think about things like that. We don't.
Well, you know,
we
we've
don't
been doing
realize.
it for a long time.
Well,
It's
I
hard
know
to
we don't
stop
know where it
something like
goes,
that.
and we don't
That's
know.
true.
We don't realize when you hit that handle to flush it, someone downriver is drinking that water.
Well, I hope it's better.
Well, it is better. We know it's better going out than it went in. We know. We
That's
definitely
true,
know
yeah.
that. In fact,
That's
we know the
correct.
water we send out is better than the water we brought in to drink. So it's,
That's true. But, you know, it's the thought of it
I
that
know, it's
counts,
just a
you know.
thought. I know.
I wouldn't want to go down and get a cup of the effluent.
Well, they say
that
you can
come out
stick
of
the cup
river.
there and drink it. I know, but
I don't think I'd try that.
well,
Even though it is clean water.
it
Let's
is,
put it that way,
yeah,
yes.
and it is amazing that when you watch when you see pictures of like the Caribbean and the Hawaii and how the water is so blue and you
Oh,
can
yeah.
see down 100 feet, you can't see down 2 inches in the river.
Yeah.
I just thought it's just or the ocean or anything else.
That's true. I mean,
along the shore anyway.
There is a lot of pollution in waters anymore. You know.
It's just a lot of work that we do,
Yes.
and things that the town does like that ensures us to have safe drinking water. We just don't really. We just take it for granted, and we
Well,
don't realize that this costs a lot of money.
Oh, that's true. And several years ago, we had to, after we pump it out of the river and get to the treatment plant, we have to run it through a what they call a blue light, which is to kill all the bacteria going in. And then as it goes out of the sewer plant, we had to install one there, and that kills all the bacteria that's left before it goes back into the river.
That's a
And
lot.
that was $2 or $3 million invested.
Yeah, it's not like something coming out of a garden hose.
No,
It's
not exactly.
It's a big thing. What about I know now tomorrow afternoon we'll have another press conference with the county and town on the kind of bringing everybody up to date what's happening as far as emergency management going on, and I think we'll have that tomorrow afternoon. We'll have that press conference, and,
Right.
and the county's been working hard on keeping things basically social distancing and keeping the public meetings and the just keeping people away from each other.
Well, we have to follow the guidelines that the governor set, and I think it's a good idea the way it's been handled. And I've noticed the traffic in Front Royal is very minimal compared to what it normally was. So people are staying home, and even today, I was out at Target. I had to get some medicine, and there was very few people there at Target. Now Walmart, I have no idea how many were there. I didn't go over, but we need to follow the guidelines that the governor said, and hopefully that within the next 30 days, 60 days, that we'll see a big drop in the people that are actually has the virus and getting over it.
Well, I think things are improving because there's toilet paper on the shelves. On a little bit of toilet paper, but
not much,
so
but some.
but it's coming back. So
Yes.
maybe people
Right.
and our supply chain is working. I mean, we just take what you need when you need it and kind of let it like get it built up there instead of.
That's true. But I think we forget a lot of things what the general public is doing. I know that you see a lot of things on Facebook, and I hate to say that most of them don't know what they're talking about, but they put a lot of stuff on there that has no bearing or no meaning whatsoever. But we need to give credit to where credit's due, and we need to give credit to our town staff, our county staffers. We have an emergency director that he's doing I feel a great job for the county. And even the state and the feds, I mean, you'd be surprised how much time that's being invested in trying to, get these regulations out and trying to pursue these things, including our police and sheriff's department. And it's a lot of time. And we need to tell the citizens that they need to abide by these rules. And the quicker we abide by the rules that have been set, the quicker we'll get over this pandemic of the coronavirus.
Yeah, well, I tell people this too shall pass. Just it may not pass when we want. It's the old saying, I want patience. I'll pray for patience, and I want it right now.
That's a problem. It's not going to happen right now.
No.
We're going to have to be patient until it runs its course, and hopefully that we can get our economy back to where it was, or pretty close to what it was in the next 4 or 5 months if we get over the pandemic. That's
Well,
the
the president is looking at getting the economy going back in certain parts of the country that are less affected than others, and we do have some some serious infections. But it's all about the data, and
Sure.
and it is, and I think it'll all come out okay in the end here? It's kind of new
Oh,
for
I,
us.
I think it will. The only, the big issue with the feds is, we have another $2.2 trillion. It's
Right.
hard for me to fathom that much money.
Well,
But,
we're not the Fed. You can't print money for the
no.
town, so
but again, that just kicks our deficit up another 2.2 trillion, which is
trillion that
already
we can't even
22 or 3.
imagine. Right, we can't imagine $1 trillion. But
Oh,
I,
so
you
really-
used to say, well, your children will be paying for it. Now it's our great grandchildren will be,
If ever.
if ever. Well, we like some countries, we'll just cut off a bunch of zeros at the end and
Right.
start over again.
But if we spend the 2.2 million plus whatever else they spend, and it brings the economy back, then that's going to be the best scenario we have at this point. That get our restaurants back open, get our lodging and our tourist people moving, and getting our interaction between Europe and the other countries
Sure,
so that we
sure.
can get our airlines moving again. And it's a big step. People don't realize how much just closing a few restaurants has an effect on the local budgets and the state and
Yeah,
the feds.
it's
but
hard to
it-
believe that you have that much shortfall because you have a lot of fast food restaurants. Yes, they still open, but it's just amazing.
Yeah,
Just a few
it's-
people stop doing something, and it really has a major
It
effect.
really has a major effect on, and it goes from the top to the bottom. Doesn't stop at one point.
No, no.
It goes all the way from the bottom to the top.
Well, we just heard today that they've closed the Shenandoah National Park,
Yes,
and
right.
so that'll be closed. Primarily, people weren't paying attention to the rules. I think a lot of it, they were congregating and partying on the park and the drive, and then they're just people out, just congregations, and I think that's part of the,
That was kind of comical when you say that, because I just talked to my wife and I said, we ought to take a drive up on the Skyline Drive. I came home and I looked at my email that I
Yeah.
had gotten, and it
says-
said Skyline Drive is closed,
Yeah.
effective immediately.
they did use the word temporarily, so
Yeah, well, yeah,
it'll be
sure.
temporarily. So.
I hope it's not too long. But
Well, we
again,
know that, as much as we criticize the town council and the board of supervisors and the president and the governor, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, everybody is working hard, I think, to do what they feel is best for our communities and our state and our country. And I think that if we can just work together on things, take out the good stuff and work together on it, I
Sure,
think we'll come
right.
through this.
I
Keep
think
our
so,
prayers
but-
going up, and I think that's a
That's true.
big
but,
thing. And
But it's easy to criticize people. But
yeah, we're really good armchair quarterbacks.
You got to
aren't we?
realize, you walk a mile in the other part of your shoe, you'll find that things aren't as roses as they think they are.
Well, I've talked to some of our new board members, and they campaign on one issue, and then once they get in there, and you've done it
I've been
yourself,
there, yes.
and all of a sudden, when you get all the information and you found out it's just not as easy as it sounds.
No.
As it sounds, and
And it's not just one item. I mean,
No.
people don't realize that with the town alone, you got your water, the sewer, the garbage, you got electrical, you got your general funds,
and
you got
th-
your police
those are
department.
just single items. But
Yeah.
just open up your page there, and look at the items, page
Yeah.
after page after page of just the small cuts that. Well, we'll do
yeah.
without this, not do that, do this. We're talking about, the budget is, in a notebook like that.
Oh, yeah, that's
it's
right.
it's a lot of people and
But
a
there's
lot
a
of
lot of
jobs.
people that are affected by this pandemic, and I'm hoping that we can get through this without any major problems. But there will be some problems, and I'm sure that's
Well-
going to be showing up in the services and things that we do for the community and our citizens.
Well, we appreciate everything that the town does. I know when the lights are on still and the water's flowing, comes out the other end.
Garbage
and
collected.
Garbage collected. Little things like that made a huge difference.
Oh,
As
yeah.
much things that we can do that's normal in our normal work and habits, it does help us keep overcoming. Give us that hope that it's temporary, and the only thing I could say, well, not the only thing, but one of the good things I think this has done is it's brought families a little closer back together. Maybe we're spending a little more time. Maybe that's good or bad.
Yeah.
But so far, I talked to the chief. We haven't had too many disturbances, and people seem to be complying.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, I think I was talking to the Rick Farrell, and he was telling
Right.
me, and also the chief of the fire department telling me that their calls are way down on
Right.
rescue squads and other calls. And so, people are doing things, like you said, a lot of them are staying home, and it's less work for some of those people, but it's more work for others
Right,
that's involved in it.
Well, we had the sheriff on a couple days ago, and next week Rick Farrell will come in on Tuesday, I believe. He's coming in to kind of bring us up to date on what's happening with the emergency management. We'll have the briefing for tomorrow. We're trying to get people out there and keep them. I think if we can keep people informed and not try to hide stuff, that I think people can ride it out. They see that there's a little hope, and they see light at the end of the tunnel. So,
Well, there's hope, in the future, but it's going to be a while before we see a whole lot of change in things, but it's going to happen.
well, and I think too is they say, well, get back to normal. I think our normal will change.
I think it will change.
And I think and it'll take us a while. We'll create a new culture, a new
Yes.
America. I think it's going to happen
yes.
just based upon, you're not going to turn a switch and change your habits.
Well, it's hard to change habits.
I know it. Once you change them,
mean-
it's hard to go. Well, it's hard to go back, make a new habit.
That's true, but it's hard to tell people that they can't go out and do what they want to do, and they need to stay at home and to do whatever they do at home.
I know.
But they're doing that, and that's great, because I think there's a lot of people seeing it's helping the problem that we're under right now,
Right.
the issues that we're seeing. Even though it's hurting a lot of people, but I think that it will pass one day, and
Right.
won't get back, like say, to normal, but it'll be better than it is as of today. Let's
Well,
put it that way.
I think what I miss the most is my social time in the mornings, going down to the LDs or the hometown diner or Mom's or somewhere, and you and the preachers
Right,
and
right.
everybody else, and Blaine Keller and all the guys that we talk to every day, and kind of get that. That's a social activity. And a lot of
That's
people
true.
use that.
That's true.
And these places are packed every morning,
Every
and
morning.
people go out. You think, well, spend money to eat. I know how much money I spend on breakfast. Well, you can see I don't miss a meal. So.
That's true.
But that's a big change. It's
It
a big
is-
change.
it is a change.
You get a habit like that, and it's
That's
like,
right.
whoa. It's one thing about the meal. It's the social interaction. It's the habits you've developed over the years, and it's just like I don't have to think about it. I know where I'm going on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays.
That's
and,
right.
you know,
Yeah, that's true, and that's all changed.
It's all changed. It all changed.
But-
Well, Gene, I really appreciate all you're doing as mayor, and Matt and everyone else there on the council to, working extra hours to make this thing, as best we can do out of it, and watch the budget, and make sure we got the money to do the things that has to get done. So I really appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Mike, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you, letting me do an interview, because I think it's very imperative that we let the people know what is going on, and
Right.
especially now with our budget, like you said a few minutes ago, that we're going to have to start doing some cuts, and then we'll have to see where we're at from there,
Right.
and then we'll survive. It's just a point of making changes.
Well, we're all tightening our belt, and I think we do it at home, and the town and the county and the state and the feds are doing the same thing. So, well, we'll keep everybody up to date, and we'll have you come back in a few days or next week, and
Okay.
we'll see what happens between now and then. Appreciate it,
Okay.
Gene.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.